Hey, what's up? It's Jake, and we're going to be going over manual testing basics in Terraform. So, in the last video that we watched, you saw me do a Ruby application and do some tests with response codes. So, we're not going to be using Ruby, but we want to go, how can we kind of do the same thing and test Terraform? Well, there's one way we could do it, and that's with my listener. I have this default action type of forward, and it sends it the traffic to my target group. So what I could do instead is I could have it do something else as like a little test. So I could do type is fixed response. And then we need to define this fixed response. So fixed underscore response is going to have, and this is going to look very similar to what we did with Ruby, a content type of text/plain, a message body of 404, page not found, sad panda, and then I'll have a status code, and the status code will be 404. And that's my new fixed response. So I save this. So let me go over to my modules, networking, ALB, and then do get add, get commit, test for ALB response, and then a get push. Cool. Then I'm going to go over to my production grade stuff that we built before. And we're going to go to dev. And then my ALB. Yep, there we are. And then I'm going to do a get pull basically. Get update. Go grab that last module. Oh, we have an error here. And it says line 61. Argument or definition is required here. All right, this one goes to this one. This one goes to that one. So I'm missing one. I go here, and then there. Save. PWD. Modules. Networking. ALB. Is that the right one? Yep. Get add. Get commit dash m. Missing bracket. Get push. All right, and then I'm going to go back again. / production grade Terraform networking. Is it live? Live. Where do you live? Dev. And then we're going to go to our ALB. Terraform get update. Let's do a quick Terraform format and Terraform validate. Just to double check that this is working. Cool. Terraform apply. Let's build us a load balancer. Load balancer takes like 5 minutes to build. So I'll go ahead and pause the video and I'll let you know when it's done. Okay, so now we've got our load balancer and we've got our endpoint, and the default action is set to 404, right? So if you compare this to the Ruby code, there's one huge difference, and that's that I had to run this in AWS or some cloud, right, to get it to work. And I did not have to do that with Ruby. I could run it on my local host. So the biggest number one takeaway is that when you test Terraform code, there's no local host. So you have to, with most infrastructure as code tools, you have to deploy a real environment. So everything we've been doing up to this point with Terraform apply, check it, Terraform destroy, that's pretty much how you do manual testing with Terraform. It's essential to have an easy to deploy example. So in your modules, you should have an examples folder. So what I'm going to do is in my ALB directory, I'm going to create a folder called examples, and I can put example Terraform files, main files that can be used to test this on a machine. So they don't have to go create their own environment. It's just a little example that they can use, and they can set that up however. So in my ASG rolling deploy, I'm also going to create another folder, examples, so we can go ahead and put that in there. So anytime you have a module, you should include examples. That's the easiest way to do it. So you could just have like, something easy like, hey, just here, I'll even make one. So in here, I could have a file, main.tf, and just go, okay, give me a provider, put it in US West 1, oops, region equals US West 1. And then I'm not going to manage their state. The devs can manage their own state, right? But I am going to say, hey, call the ALB module, and the source is, I'll just go into my production grade, dev, ALB, main, grab this URL, come back over here, there's my source, and then for my ALB underscore name, I'm just going to give it like developer test ALB. And then my subnet IDs, I'll just say is data.aws underscore subnet underscore IDs dot default dot IDs, and just go ahead and use the default subnet. So then it's use default network, default subnet, all that stuff. And then that should be it. So this is a good example where it says it gives a developer the ability to just come in here and run this file, right? And then this file will basically use the module so they can test it. And they can run their Terraform apply, and it's all fine and good. Maybe give them some outputs. So when it's done, like this is done, you can take this and you can comment this in your code too on what to do to test it. Is you can actually curl the address of this load balancer, and the default is to pass that behavior, this message body, which we can see it did here. So you can go in and change this to whatever you want, whatever the fixed response is, and just make sure it's working, because you don't even have to put anything behind it to see if it works. So that's something that you could absolutely do. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So now you have a way to run and test your code. You can start making changes, and like I said, you could change this to a 201 or a 500 or whatever, and just give a different message body and a status code to see it's working. And then you can run that curl command to test the new version. And then, just make sure you destroy everything when you're done, as usual. And then while that's working, I'm going to take this out because I don't actually want that default response. I want it to forward to my load balancing group. Is this, get out of here. Put that there, that here, there. All right, and that looks pretty good. So when you're working with Terraform, as a developer, everyone needs good example code to test in a real deployment environment. And most of the time, that means every developer has to have some kind of sandbox AWS account. So it's completely isolated, and they can bring things up and tear them down all they want, and they don't have to worry about breaking anything. So your developers really shouldn't have access to dev, stage, test, prod, any of that stuff. Just let the pipeline manage all that and give them access to their sandbox environment in their own AWS account. And then you can manage those with an AWS organization. That just reduces the chances of conflict with people building stuff in the same VPC and having resources with the same names and all that stuff. So putting them in an isolated sandbox environment with a new account is really the gold standard. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about that, let me know. And the last thing we'll talk about is cleaning up after your tests. So there's a tool that's kind of cool that you can check out called AWS Nuke. There's also Cloud Nuke and Janitor Monkey, but I'll use this one as an example. And you just you create this config file and pass it a region, and then you can give it account block list and then accounts you want to nuke. And then you just run AWS Nuke, pass the C for config, pass the config file, and then for whatever profile, and it will go through and delete literally everything in there. So you don't have to remember, like, did I delete everything, or how do I see that? So that's one way that you could do it. There's some other tools that allow you to do it and explicitly state which things you want to do. So like, and in this case, like there's a filter, like filter these, right? You don't want to destroy that. So then your user stays, your policy attachment, your access key, all the IAM stuff stays. So there's some cool tools that you can use. And that's nice if you're a developer and you have a sandbox account and you get done testing something and you want to destroy everything, you can just run this command if you have this installed. And that really helps to speed things up with destroying everything. So you could do a Terraform destroy, but if you're using multiple Terraform modules and you forget to do a Terraform destroy against every root module that you're using, then there might be little resources hanging around here and there. So that's one tool that looks pretty cool is AWS Nuke. And yeah, so I'll put the link to the AWS Nuke in this video description. But that's it. So if you got any other questions about cleanup, let me know. And if not, then we'll move on to automated tests.